So if you're noticing now, we have segments that have been created on the edges of this shape. So if I go to Editable Mesh, I'm going to right click and go to Convert to Editable Poly on this object. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and turn off my cylinder object, which is my handle here. So I'm focusing more on the blade now. And what I'll do is I'm going to go F3 so I can see both sides. And we can see that when I was building this thing, I have matching segments on both sides, and that's exactly what we want. So with Editable Poly selected its name, I'm going to come down and go to Cut. And if I left click directly on the vertex, otherwise you just create a random vertex across your object, I'm going to click directly on the point, or the vertex, left click, and come across. I'm going to left click to create this cut across my object. And I'm going to right click to create it. And then that way, a segment is made across the surface of the shape. Come on down. I'm going to do the same for all these. See that? Right click. That's been made. That's been made. I'm going to go ahead and finish this now. So I have all these segments matching up across my sword handle now. Okay, so using the cut tool, I've went ahead and I've had to make some additional cuts through here just to kind of maintain the direction of all these cuts across this two-dimensional shape that I've created. But you can see that all the segments are all basically completed. And I'm going to come down here and notice I got even more segments in this area when compared to the other side. So I'll have to make cuts across the top surface here, and I'm just adding cuts as additional cuts just to complete them. So if I wanted to start here, come across, and then I'm going to right click, and then come on the other side and see where that stopped, I can easily just create an extra cut right there, and that way I'm completing those cuts across the object, which is what I did up top, okay, on the very top of this sword. And I'm going to go in and I can move all these segments around and adjust them as needed later. Right now I'm just trying to kind of get a good idea of how these segments would run across this object as I progress with it. So I see that, let's see, I'm going F3 wireframe. I'm going to make a cut across here. We see that we can complete these. Perfect. And like I said, I'm just going to go ahead and just create a cut, come on the other side, on down. Remember, all these vertices can be moved around and repositioned later. Right now we're just trying to find a nice completion of this design. There we go. Might take a little time, but once you start realizing how you can create segments across this object, or you'll find out how much more control you have building your objects using this method when compared to like starting with boxes or cylinders. Sometimes, you know, if you have to build very sophisticated objects for your props or anything that's a supporting graphic for your character, I've discovered that this is pretty much one of the best directions to follow, is building two-dimensional shapes and then working from them. Okay, so as you can see, I've kind of made some adjustments here. I moved some of these vertices down so I can make the cuts come across, because you want to maintain the best possible the curvature of whatever you created originally, so it maintains the continuity of that shape. And now I'm just going to actually continue making these cuts. You see, I've got to create some downward cuts here to finish them. I actually had one of my cuts come from this vertex over, and I just went ahead and finished on top of that edge there. Just going to finish these, come across. This is where it's most complex. So I'll make sure I remember, start it, click on the point, come across, left click, and then right click to complete it. Now, where these vertices are here, and this will give me inner polygons to work with as I come across. Okay, I'm going to start right here on this vertex. That way when I create it, I can left click on this segment, left click on that segment. I come right down the middle of my handle. Notice how I'm clicking directly on the edges, because I'm not clicking when it looks like this. You make sure your icon looks like so. Left click so that way it's actually creating a vertex right on that segment as I progress throughout this. Start here. Come across all these segments. This might be a little time consuming, depending on how many segments you have, but you want to try to maintain all your segments based on the original shape you created. Again, zoom in here and make sure I'm clicking directly on this vertex. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm doing all this in wireframe. If you want to go to shaded, hit F3 in that viewport, and this will actually be a little more clear for you. I'm going to go and create this edge now. Perfect. Okay. And now that will give me the basic foundation of all the segments and vertices to work with, and I can reshape this further, and then I can build out from it using poly, extrude, and bevel on edges or certain areas I maybe want to pull in, create some neat little features that might come across it. But for the most part, if I go to Editable Poly now and just kind of see where this is going, you can see I've got pretty much all the segments needed just to represent the basic structure now with all those additional cuts that have been applied. Now let's turn back on that cylinder shape that I had. I take this blade, I'm gonna, with Editable Poly, gonna go rotate. I use the outer ring, right? Rotate, and whatever releases, get as close as you can. Look down here. Make sure your values are at 0, 180s, or 90s, or negative 90s, negative 180s. This would be a 90, so I'm gonna make sure that's a perfect 90 degree. So now it's perfect 90 degree. Use the move tool. It's gonna bring this on over and see how it needs to fit. Alt W there to go into full screen. See how it needs to fit inside. We want it to come out through this little area here, right? Go to top view and let's use the rotate again. Outer ring, left click drag, and let's rotate this thing where it would fit. Looks like we got 90, 90, so this would be a perfect 90 here. Nice. Okay. Move tool. See how it's going to fit inside our handle. Perfect. And then we want it to kind of come off and out a little bit, right? Like it has a little bit of a lip. That's exactly what we wanted. That's a small little sword blade. It's more like a dagger. So I'm going to use the Editable Poly scale tool. And remember to scale from the middle, not the outside edge. That's non-uniform scale. Left click drag from the middle. Let's scale this thing up. Let's give it. So that's looking good. I'm going to turn the cylinder off now because now I know these two objects are aligned correctly. And let me go back to Modify tab. And I want to have this blade come out. So I'm going to go to Polygon. Let's go to the, let's use the top view. I believe this is the inner area of that blade. Yes, it is. Okay. And I don't want to move the back, so let's find out where the back is. I believe it's back here. I just want to move the front. So let's use the front view to deselect the back. So if I hit wireframe, you can see those back polys are selected. I'm basically going to hold Alt, left click and drag and deselect any polygons I might have gotten select on the back part. Go Alt W on the perspective view. Now we can see that just those polygons in the front are selected, and that's exactly what we want. I don't want to move the handle out because that wouldn't make any sense. And it looks like in the deselect process, holding Alt, I deselected the ones I didn't want to. I didn't want deselect, so I'm going to hold Control, left click, and reselect these back. So I'm going to bring this sword blade forward, so it's got a sharper edge on it. Let's pan on down here. Just push it down the middle mouse wheel to pan. And I'm going to deselect the handle, hold Alt, and that lip's gotta stay pretty much where it needs to be. That's gonna be good. Alright, and then move forward in the front view, or whatever is your side view. Alt W, go full view here. Okay, that looks good. That gives it a nice little outer edge, and now the sharp edge, right? So let's bring this down. Let's go F3 in my side view, whatever it is on your end. Let's move that down a little bit. There we go. Now it's got a nice little, like that sword edge, and now the sharp edge. So I'm going to go to Vertex, Alt W. Let's see, where's the polygons got selected? It's these, so I'm going to go to Vertex, and I'll just grab these in the top view. Let's say these right here, my inner ones, right? I'm going to move those vertices forward now. When I move them forward, I make sure that my angles are aligned the best they can be. Okay, so now, that said, looks like I'm going to go ahead and take this sword blade. Now, keep in mind, you can go to polygon, like we've learned in this video. I'm not going to go into too much detail about all this. I'm just kind of showing you some basic modeling processes that you can definitely utilize for building out all your objects. Okay, move them up. Shape all these out and make it a little bit more rounded. Move these vertices out. I didn't even notice that. Whoops. So I'll move those back out a little bit. Variations of these segments. Let's say every other line. Let's say I want to add some detail here. Let's say I want to use these. Down. So extrude. So I want to come out like maybe this far. Instead of extruding out, let's say this one line right here, just this one line, I wanted them to be in. So I'll take this polygon. Let's say I want to go Editable Mesh this time. Right click, go to Editable Mesh. Let's go to Poly. Leave those last two selected. And instead of going out, I'll go left click and drag down on the arrow, and then I can extrude in. So maybe you want to go in instead of out. And that way it adds in some extra little indentation there in the sword blade. And then I can use the scale tool. Use the middle value, not the outside of the gizmo, remember, the middle, left click and drag, and I can scale it in. And if I have this object selected like so, I'm going to go to the mirror option, and I'm going to say copy, and as you can see, it's giving me mirror options, but not exactly the one I want, so I got to find the right value to work with, which is going to mirror. So if I'm going to come out of here real quick, I'm going to go in the top view. This will be a little bit easier to understand. I'm going to again go into mirror. I'm going to hit copy so I can see where the copy is and what it's doing. I know I don't want X, Y, and there it is. And it's going to copy it based off the Y axis. And that's going to be the best parameter to use in my case. I'm going to click OK. And now I've got a little mesh. Let's look at the perspective view. Now I've got both sides of that sword blade. This side and that side. Let's turn that 4 off so we can see a little bit clearer here. Okay. So I got this side, and they're right matched up on one another. And right down here under Editable Poly or Editable Mesh, if I right click and go to Polygon just to show you, if it's under I have this selected, I can go to Attach, and it works the exact same. If I hit Attach, and I had that one object selected, I can click on the other side, and now they come together as one object. Okay? Again, if I want to do it under Editable Mesh, I can right-click, convert to Editable Mesh, have it selected, go to Attach, and click on the other, and then they're together. They're as one object. So I can deactivate Attach, go into Vertex mode, and now I'm going to collapse all the meeting vertices. So I can go wireframe to help me. This you have to be a little bit more careful with because you don't want to select vertices that are on the other side of the object. So I'm going to select, like, let's say these two matching. And I know those are matching vertices right there. Okay, so I got to be under Editable Poly. So I'm going to right click on Convert to Editable Poly. Let's go to Vertex. And notice that these two vertices are selected. And I'm going to come on down. I'm going to go to Collapse. Under Vertex, Collapse. And now those are joined together. So I got to go across all my vertices, collapse them. It's wise to collapse all your meeting vertices. Hit Z on any vertex to zoom in on it. So as you can see, this is going to take me a little while. Now if I wanted to, I can even reposition as I go. So if this is down too far, I wanted those up, I can do that. Collapse. When you're left click and dragging, make sure you're not selecting vertices on the other side like this. Because if I collapse, that's going to create distortion in your mesh. So you want to make sure that you're only selecting the ones that are met up. All right, I'm going to progress through this. So I'm going to go and stop the video. Just keep progressing. I'm going to collapse all meeting vertices, make sure they're all joined together across the middle seam of this object, which is a sword blade. Okay, so I just finished the last meeting vertices, and I collapsed them. And if I zoom out here, we hit F3, hit F4, see the all the segments. I go to Editable Poly. Looks good. Hit F4, turn the wireframe off. Hit F3, you can see this is what it looks like. Not too satisfied with the default color looking like a flesh color. So I'm going to come up here and left click on the little color highlight. Let's say like give me a gray. That looks better. There we go. Alright, so that said, I come over here and turn my cylinder back on, and we're going to see how it all fits together. And that's just kind of the basic idea of modeling, props or whatever you might be creating in the future. Okay, if I hit F4, we can see, and I can continue to build on this. This doesn't have to be the final design. We can now come in and I can start grabbing vertices either on the sword blade or maybe say this area here, vertex, and say, you know what, I want all these to come this way a little bit more. Doesn't have to go out so far. Shapes, but I can, I don't just have to take it from shapes line, but I can actually come and use any of these other shapes. So if I want to do a rectangle and build it in my top view, like so, left click and drag across, this creates a two-dimensional rectangle. And from there, I can use the selection tool, right click on it, go convert to, let's say, poly or mesh, and it will shade that in, and now this is an area that can be a polygon. Select it, and I can extrude it, like what we've learned. Just like so. But now one side is empty, and if I wanted to, let's go ahead and rotate it. Let's get a better look at it here. So -90. I can mirror it. Copy off the X value. Okay. Attach. Go to vertex. See these vertices right here? I can collapse them. these vertices, collapse them. These vertices, collapse. These vertices, collapse. And now it's all one object. Okay? And that's what you want to do when you're modeling your props. You want to model one side of it. Okay? In this case, because it was a handle, I had more control of using extrude and bevel options where I could just maintain both sides. But if that doesn't work for you, again, let's just delete this because of this example. I could have just modeled one side. So if I wanted to create this, and if there was more I wanted to do with, due to this handle, let's say I don't need these polygons here on this side. Let's hit delete. I can now come in, edit any part on this side without having to think about the other side. So if I wanted this to actually be the final concept, let me get all central polygons deleted here that I don't need. Like if I wanted this whole side to jet out. Let's go editable mesh. Let's use editable mesh this time. Right click on that object, go editable mesh, polygon. Okay, let's say I just wanted that one side to kind of come out. I go editable mesh, have it selected, mirror. Let's say that's actually the final concept we wanted. Mirror off the Y, hit OK. And voila, I could attach these together. Attach. So they're together. Vertex, and then I could go through and I would collapse all those median vertices across again. If I wanted to, If it's not a rectangle, you could even use other shapes like a circle. Left click drag, create a perfect circle. And then this circle, you can right click on it. Right click on it, go to convert to, let's say, editable mesh. It shades in the top. I created it in the top view. Okay, creating the top view, that way it's built on the grid. If I hit G and turn the grid, see how it's built on the grid facing upward. That's why I always create the top view. And then that said, I can take this polygon, select it, I could extrude it up. So I could build the handle like this if I wanted to. Scale it out, extrude. Let's just hit the up arrow one time, just tap it, and then extrude in. Make a hard beveled edge, extrude up again. Tap it, extrude out, extrude up. What I suggest you do is get familiar with using extrude and bevel by doing what I just did. Practice. Let's take it from the top again. Let's create another shape real quick. Say circle. Okay, right click on it, convert to, let's do the mesh. Practice this for a little bit until you get in the rhythm and understand how to use the extrude and bevel. Notice I was using scale, but I can basically extrude. If I wanted to, just tap extrude barely, then use the bevel feature even. And I can extrude up, hit up, extrudes up, you can use the bevel, click drag, pull it in. If I wanted to go in, so I could just tap down and then use the move tool. Pull that in. Let's say extrude down. Use the scale tool, or I could use the bevel tool. Use the bevel, extrude in, extrude up, bevel out or scale out, whatever you want to do. And then it could go up. The more experience with the extrude and bevel options, using scale, and then when to use move to shape your objects, you're going to be able to find really quick and final results. I'll take this. Let's say this is the end of my little sword handle now. So let's say right here, go full screen. I'll rotate this thing around. It's going to be 180. Here, come on down. Go wireframe. Make sure it's all evened up. Always look at like the middle lines. See how this middle line here, this object now, in the end of that sword handle. I'm going to match it up to the middle lines of those. And now voila. So one last little thing I'll show you is, depending on what your prop is or supporting object, you're going to want to be using the smooth modifier. So if I wanted to smooth out the sword blade, I could select it, and under Editable Poly or Editable Mesh, whatever it is, again, I could right click. This could be an Editable Mesh if I wanted to. I'm just going to make it an Editable Poly. I can have this name selected, and with it selected, I can go to the little drop tab here, and I come on down, and I can say Mesh Smooth, and it will smooth that out. Okay. You want to be careful with some of the edges you create. You can see this creates a little bit more cutting of those shapes than what's needed. I could probably come here and make some extra little cuts, and then that would round those areas out a little bit more. But I would go to iterations. I'd say like 2 iterations. I suggest never going above 2 iterations because of RAM purposes. Your computer's going to have a hard time catching up and it'll risk crashing. But you can see what the smooth did. That made it actually look like a nice, smooth, rounded out kind of sword blade to work with. If I wanted to, I could smooth out the handle. So here's my handle. Let's say I wanted to smooth it out. Smooth. And then that's what it looks like in the smooth property. So I could say 2 iterations. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. And I could keep working with that if I wanted to. And then down here, let's say I just want to take this, Mesh Smooth, take it down to 2 iterations, and you can see what that did. Okay? So that just kind of rounded out all the edges, made it look more realistic. Okay? Now, if I didn't want to do that, let's say I wanted to kind of maintain a hard edge smoothing property. I'm going to delete this. You can see I had the Mesh Smooth. I'm just going to hit delete. If I want to grab this object, I don't want to see these polys, but I want to kind of maintain the contour of the edges. I would have it selected, go to drop tab. I'm going to come all the way down. I'm going to grab what's called just the regular smooth property. And if I turn on auto smooth, it will maintain the edges so they're more like metal-like. Okay? And I could turn on auto smooth, and I can even increase the threshold. Let's say I wanted like 120. It's the max value. That will really round them out a little bit more. But if I wanted to just get rid of the polys and make things more of like a metal look, let's say 60, it will do that. Okay, so that might be something that a lot of you actually enjoy more. Notice that because this seam here on the handle was not, these vertices were not collapsed. Okay, that's why that Mesh Smooth is not working. So if I turn this off, go to vertice, you'll see the reason why you have to make sure that your vertices are collapsed. If I want to convert to an Editable Poly, Editable Mesh, you're going to want to delete your Mesh Smooth, because if you don't, it will take that modifier and want to convert to Polygon. It becomes part of it and maintains the smoothing, which is not what we want. So you got to be very careful with that. So I'm going to delete my Mesh Smooth, Editable Mesh to Poly, Vertex. I'm going to collapse these meeting vertices now. And just that, let's see what it does. Now if I had the Mesh Smooth, yeah, see the difference? These are vertices that have not been collapsed yet across, and these are. So here is the final concept I came up with. This is after I've kind of gone through and cleaned up all the polys and the vertices, kind of position where I want them to be. One last thing that you can definitely explore using is what's called the soft selection. And I was able to actually move these vertices around into specific areas that allow me to really build out the direction of the blade that I wanted in the end. I thought the final result really reached a positive conclusion. I'm pretty happy with it. It's got kind of this nice bulk, long curvature blade, and I've even got this like little indentation in it. But if I turn on soft selections here, if I go to Editable Poly or Editable Mesh, and you come on down and go to Vertex, you can use what's called the soft selection parameter. So if I turn this on and I select a vertex, you can see I can move numerous vertex at one time. I can adjust the fall off value of the soft selection right here. So if I made this like, let's say 50, you can automatically notice how many vertices I can move at one time. This plays a major advantage. So when you kind of get established with something that you like, you can come in and use the soft body and really move and have more control over where you want to position your vertices. You can turn on the soft selection. If you notice, if I just select one, it understands how to create the fall off. So when I move the one, all the others move with it. And you have, like I said, more fluid control over actually the bending and directional movement of your mesh. So anyway, this was the final result that came out with. As you can see, I added a mesh smooth to my blade. And here's the handle I kind of came out with as it accommodates the blade. So I went in and I built, I'm going to turn on F4 here. As you can see, I rebuilt polys in between after I deleted these polys and remirrored everything and reunited the vertices back together. And this is the final result that came out with. I'm pretty satisfied with it. I'm actually kind of excited to see this in a hand of a character now. And that's my next move. I'm going to start building out the character that's going to work best with this type of sword blade. It's got kind of the sickle sword look to it, but it's got this nice cleaver body at the bottom. I would hate to get hit by something like this, you know? But that's the fun of 3D modeling. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this prop modeling series, these two videos. And like I said, have fun and reach out if you ever need anything else at my LinkedIn account. Or if you ever want to shoot over your updated work and designs that you build from my lecture series, go for it. I'm just excited to see what you all got. Keep in mind that you can go to my LinkedIn page at linkedin.com if you would like to link up with me and have me as a resource and a reference in your list of contacts. You can send me a message at my LinkedIn, and that will reach out to my Yahoo email, hence my Gmail accounts, and I can always be there to help you. Thank you for watching, and look forward to working with you.